Welcome to the Wishing You Well podcast. I am your host, Maria Patrick, and this is your weekly dose of health and wellness ideas and inspiration to help you to live your best, longest, healthiest, and most wonderful life. I am a health and wellness coach and a Qi Gong instructor. I specialize in nutrition and I help people get healthier and stronger. I'm on a constant lookout for inspiring people and stories to assist us on our health journey. This week, we are talking about the poisonous peas, and my inspiration came from the one and only comedian, writer, actor, producer, and movie maker, Jerry Seinfeld. Oh, how I love Jerry Seinfeld. Back in 1989, after watching the pilot episode of Seinfeld, I called every single one of my friends. We weren't texting back then. It was actually dialing numbers and speaking to people. I called each and every one to tell them that the show was comedy gold, that they would love it, and I predicted that it was going to be a huge, enormous hit. Well, 9 seasons and over 131 award nominations and many wins later, the show is still popular in syndication, and according to recent polls in Vanity Fair and 60 Minutes, it's considered to be the best television sitcom of all time. Well, Jerry has gone on to do other things since the show wrapped in 1998. He returned to stand-up comedy. He produced and starred in 2 television programs, and he wrote, produced, and starred in 2 movies, including the one that was recently released on Netflix called Unfrosted, all about the making of the beloved Pop-Tart. Jerry's been on a promotional tour for his big new project, so you may have seen, heard, or read about his publicity interviews. One of the topics which has come up is one that I have heard Jerry discuss several times over the years: the 3 poisonous peas. Jerry and his wife Jessica have 3 children, and according to Jerry, he and his wife have been in lockstep about their parenting approach since day one. They raised their children with 3 rules in mind, which Jerry has said were at the heart of their parenting philosophy. They call them the 3 poisonous P's: praise, problem solving, and pleasure. All of which Jerry Seinfeld thinks that parents dole out way too much of and way more often than they should. Jerry says that parents are constantly telling their kids, "Great job, you're amazing," which sets them up for the unrealistic expectation of getting that kind of praise regularly in real life. The second poisonous P, problem solving, is that parents are constantly trying to solve their kids' problems instead of letting them figure things out on their own. Jerry was quoted as saying, "Problem solving is the most important skill to develop for success in life, and for some reason, we can't stand it if our kids have a situation that they need to fix." He says, "Let the kids struggle. It's a gift." The last poisonous P is that parents are giving kids too much pleasure, like letting them eat cookies right before dinner and not having any rules when it comes to bedtimes and chores. Jerry says, if you want your children to become good adults, stop overindulging them and instead focus on leading by example. He reminds us that kids are not going to do what we tell them to do or think like we tell them to think. But he says kids are always watching. They're especially watching how you deal with that waiter or that handyman, and they are probably more likely to imitate you. Jerry has said that having Sasha, Julian, and Shepard was a dream come true for him, and that watching them grow up has been the greatest show on earth, which are beautiful words coming from someone who is responsible for bringing us one of the best shows on earth. Jerry's poisonous peas talk had me thinking about the poisonous peas of nutrition, which brings me to my very important message of today. This comes from Dr. Longo, who is the author of the book, The Longevity Diet, which came out in 2018. He's a professor of gerontology and the director at the USC Longevity Institute in California. He's an expert whose advice we would all do well to follow. He says that he intends to live to be 120 to 130 healthy years, and he writes about a topic that I have mentioned in previous podcast episodes: the importance of extending not only our lifespan, which refers to the number of years lived, but also extending our health span, the number of years that we will live free of disease. Dr. Longo is Italian, born and raised, which in and of itself may make him an expert on the subject of longevity, since the Italian lifestyle has long been considered the gold standard for living longer. Based largely on the Mediterranean diet, the Italian focus on family and community, and the seemingly countrywide regular pastime of walking after meals. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Dr. Longo is pushing the discussion of the problem of the poisonous peas because he says that the youth in today's Italy are no longer eating the Mediterranean diet that their parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents did. Their diet now consists of the poisonous 5 Ps: pizza, pasta, protein, potatoes, and pane, or bread, which he says has contributed to an obesity problem in Italy's youth. Dr. Longo is afraid that Italians won't live as long and healthfully as they used to if this pattern continues to dominate the culture. So how do we reverse this problem of the 5 poisonous Ps, which echoes the SAD, the Standard American Diet? Dr. Longo says we need to return to the tested, tried and true original Mediterranean diet, which consists of plant-based foods, fish, olive oil, and nuts. Here are Dr. Longo's suggestions. Number 1, that we should all try to eat mostly vegan. Load up on as many fresh vegetables as possible, plus adding in a little fish, limiting those meals with fish to 2 or 3 per week. He says that we should choose fish and crustaceans that are high in omega-3 and omega-6 and vitamin B12. Things like salmon, anchovies, sardines, cod, trout, clams, and shrimp. And that we should pay close attention when we're choosing our fish so that we get ones that have low levels of mercury. Dr. Longo's second recommendation: we should work on keeping our protein intake low, about 40 to 47 grams of protein per day if you're under the age of 65. And if you're over the age of 65, you should slightly increase your protein intake. He does think that we should connect our level of protein intake to our body weight. So if you're somebody who weighs over 200 pounds, you'd want to increase, and you're under the age of 65, you'd want to increase the amount of protein grams you have per day from 40 to 47 to 60 to 70. We should do this by working on eating fish, eggs, white meat, and products that come from goats and sheep, which will preserve our muscle mass. He thinks we should also focus on consuming lean vegan sources of protein like beans, chickpeas, green peas, and other legumes, and quite possibly, and it would be beneficial to make those the main sources of your protein intake. Recommendation number 3, watch your saturated fat intake, paying particular attention to minimizing the saturated fats that you get from animal sources like meats and cheeses, and maximize good fats and complex carbohydrates. Good fats: walnuts, olive oil, other types of nuts, avocados, the things that you find on the Mediterranean diet. Number 4, eat whole grains. Whole grains have been getting a bad rap lately, but if you eat whole grains and high quantities of vegetables like tomatoes, broccoli, carrots, legumes, and then you add in, when you're eating these things, generous amounts of olive oil, he thinks we should have at least 3 tablespoons per day, and then snack on nuts at least 1 ounce per day. that we will be getting the appropriate amount of healthy fats and grains. Recommendation number 5, follow a diet that has a high vitamin and mineral content and supplement with a multivitamin. He says something that I've heard a lot. We talked about it a lot when I went to get my health coaching certification, to try to eat the way our ancestors would have eaten, meaning not a lot of things that are boxed and packaged with labels. Don't eat items that your ancestors would not have recognized. Recommendation number 6, limit the number of meals you have per day to 2 or 3. His recommendation is that if you are overweight or tend to gain weight easily, consume just 2 meals a day, breakfast and either lunch or dinner, and then get into your day 2 low sugar, less than 5 grams, snacks with fewer than 100 calories each. He says if you're just trying to maintain your weight or you tend to lose weight easily, that you should eat 3 meals a day, and the same rules apply for the snacks. Low sugar, less than 3 to 5 grams, and fewer than 100 calories. Recommendation number 7, define a period of time in your day. He recommends 12 hours in which you will confine all of your eating. For example, starting to eat at 8 a.m. and ending before 8 p.m. And he recommends something that you'll hear a lot from physicians, nutritionists, health coaches like myself. Don't eat anything within 3 to 4 hours of your bedtime. If you go to Dr. Longo's website, which I will put a link in the description to this podcast, he has some marvelous recipes for longevity, including, and they all sound amazing, Tuscan bread salad, stuffed artichokes, onions and walnut sauce, gnocchi with porcini sauce, hummus, Sicilian pasta and eggplant, polenta and mushrooms, chickpeas and chestnuts with rosemary and garlic, and chocolate almond delights, which I'm going to make later today. Once again, I've included a link to his recipes in my podcast description. I'm going to add in another P for you. And this one is most definitely not poisonous, and it has to do with the beautiful country of Dr. Longo's ancestry, which is, as well as my own ancestry, the daily tradition that is part of the culture in Italy that is known as La Passegiatta, which is a beautiful way to say the evening stroll. The name originates from the verb passeggiare, which means to walk. La Passegiatta is a ritual that Italians and tourists visiting Italy take the time to enjoy nearly every day, relaxing and walking through the pedestrian streets. The walk, which may be short and is taken purely for pleasure, typically happens between the hours of 5 to 8 p.m. after meals. This daily walking ritual, which originated in the south of Italy but is now happening all over Italy, may involve a variety of things: window shopping, chatting with friends, taking a coffee, sightseeing, admiring great works of art, or stopping for a gelato or an aperitivo. This cultural phenomenon in the country of Italy is so special that it is not uncommon to see entire families walking together. There are so many health benefits to this daily ritual, which is why the country that we associate with eating plentiful amounts of delicious food has actually unlocked the secret to staying slim. They are walking it off. According to the book, The Fat Cell Solution, creating a daily habit of a passeggiata is great for weight loss, regulating blood sugar levels, and reducing stress. The Diabetes Care Journal has done studies that found that even just a 15-minute walk after a meal will improve the body's ability to regulate blood sugar for the following 24 hours. If you do as the Italians do and take several short walks per day, the health benefits are as effective as one long 45-minute walk. If you take your passeggiata after dinner, you can reap even more benefits, because combining gentle physical activity with the fading light of day before nightfall will help to recalibrate your body clock, which will help you to sleep better. The post-meal walk is also a simple way to aid your digestion, reduce the after-eating insulin spike, and stimulate your metabolism. All of these things will happen without it ever feeling like exercise or hard work. You won't find anyone wearing a pedometer or spandex during these strolls in Italy. Instead, you'll see them enjoying a beautiful sunset, catching up with neighbors, or reconnecting as a family at the end of a long work day. So how do you get that magical ritual started if you don't have any plans to travel abroad to Italy anytime soon? Take a page out of the playbook of the Italians. Instead of turning on the television right after dinner, go for a 15-minute walk. After a few weeks, add in another walk in the morning, after lunch, or sometime in the afternoon. If you already have a workout routine, you can add your outdoor Passegiatta as a supplement to your normal routine. La Passegiatta can be a benefit to even the most seasoned fitness veteran because it will serve as an easy, stress-relieving activity. For the best results, try to pair your Passegiatta with your weekly date night or your girls' night out and make your walk the social event of the season, just like the Italians do. So there you have it. Jerry Seinfeld's 3 poisonous P's of parenting and Dr. Longo's 5 poisonous P's of nutrition, and the big P takeaway of the day, La Passegiatta, the recipe for longevity. Hey, do me a favor. Don't tell Jerry Seinfeld, but I think that as great as his new movie is, that Pop-Tarts would probably end up being added to Dr. Longo's list of poisonous P's. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think that food is medicine, which is why I am so committed to using nutrition to help people get healthier, stronger, and live longer using the foods they eat. If you need my support in this area, use the link in my podcast to book an online coaching session with me at a discounted price, which is just for my podcast listeners. Let's turn up the volume on the discussion of the poisonous P's and focus on filling ourselves with as much nutritional food as possible, living like the Italians of yesteryear. Do as the Italians have taught us to do. Enjoy your meals, live your life to the fullest, stay socially connected, take a nice walk after each meal, and know, please know and remember that you've got a health coach in upstate New York who, as always, is wishing you well.